The gentle waves of the Atlantic Ocean rocked the fishing boat Hope, drifting 200 kilometers off the coast of Tanzania. 4 fishermen, Jamal, Abasi, Hassan, and Kofi, cast their nets in hopes of a good catch. The day was hot and windless, and nothing hinted at anything out of the ordinary. Jamal was the first to notice a strange movement in the water, about 50 meters from the boat. He alerted the others to a dark silhouette slowly moving along the surface. At first, they thought it might be a dolphin, but the object's movement was far too unusual. Abasi grabbed the binoculars, focused on the strange shape, and dropped the device in shock. What he saw defied all logic. A lion was swimming in the open ocean. The others thought Abasi was joking, or maybe suffering from heat stroke. But when they looked through the binoculars themselves, their skeptical laughter turned to stunned silence. 200 kilometers from shore, in water several kilometers deep, a full-grown lion was struggling to stay afloat, its heavy, soaked mane dragging it down. The animal was clearly exhausted. Its movements grew sluggish and spasmodic. The fishermen exchanged silent glances. None of them could comprehend how the king of the savannah had ended up so far from land. Such a thing couldn't have occurred naturally. Jamal, the eldest among them, grabbed the radio transmitter. The situation demanded immediate intervention from professionals. He contacted the Dar es Salaam Coast Guard, relayed their coordinates, and described the unbelievable scene. An adult lion in critical condition, fighting for its life in the middle of the ocean. At first, the dispatcher didn't believe the report and asked Jamal to repeat it several times. Once convinced it wasn't a prank, the dispatcher promised to send a rescue team immediately and instructed the fishermen to observe the animal from a safe distance. While Jamal spoke to the Coast Guard, the others maneuvered the boat cautiously, keeping the lion in sight without getting too close. The lion was visibly weakening. At times, its head slipped entirely underwater, only its soggy mane breaking the surface. In those moments, the fishermen's hearts stopped. It seemed the creature might never come up again. 2 agonizing hours passed before a rescue vessel, Savannah, appeared on the horizon, a Tanzanian Coast Guard ship. The team, led by Captain Ismail Mbeki, arrived fully equipped to rescue large animals. Among them was wildlife veterinarian Amara Ngozi, a Serengeti Reserve specialist. As Savannah approached the site, the captain ordered the crew to slow down. He didn't want to generate waves that could drown the exhausted animal. Amara, binoculars in hand, watched the lion from the bow. Its condition was dire. Its powerful body, made for the savannah, not water, could barely stay afloat. "We need to act immediately," Amara ordered, noticing the lion's head dip under again before bobbing back up. 10 more minutes and we'll lose him. On her command, a special, low-walled raft, designed for rescuing marine mammals, was lowered into the water. 2 experienced swimmers in protective wetsuits carefully steered the raft toward the lion, moving slowly to avoid startling it. When the raft was just a few meters away, the predator turned its head and saw the approaching humans. There was fear in its eyes, tinged with hopelessness. It let out a weak sound, more a moan than a roar, but made no attempt to attack or swim away. It was too weak. Watching from the savannah, Amara gave calm directions over the radio. "Approach from downwind. Speak softly, so he gets used to your voices. No sudden movements." The swimmers maneuvered with extreme caution. Gradually, they managed to get the platform under the lion's body, but the animal was too weak to climb aboard on its own. "We'll have to lift him," Amara decided. She transferred to an inflatable boat and approached the raft, carrying a long pole with a loop. A tool designed for handling large predators safely. With remarkable precision, Amara slipped the loop around the lion's neck, taking care not to cause pain. Then, with the help of the rescuers, she began slowly pulling the lion onto the platform. "Watch the head," she commanded. "Keep his airways above water. Support his right side. Now the left. Good. Just like that." The lion barely resisted, his survival instinct compelling him to cooperate. His claws scratched the raft's surface, leaving deep gouges, not from aggression, but desperation. Bit by bit, the massive body was brought aboard the platform. Water streamed from his fur, revealing prominent ribs and a sunken belly. He had clearly been in the water for hours, and his exhaustion was extreme. Amara immediately administered a mild sedative, enough to calm him, but not so much as to knock him unconscious, which could be dangerous in his current condition. "Now we need to get him on board," she said, catching her breath. "That'll be the hardest part." The raft with the lion was slowly towed toward the savannah. A ship's crew prepared a lifting mechanism, a system of pulleys and straps meant for heavy cargo. But this time, the cargo was alive, starved, on the brink of death, and still very dangerous. "Bring the raft to starboard," ordered Captain Mbeki, watching the operation intently. "Stabilize it, no swinging." When the raft reached the side of the savannah, 4 rescuers descended the rope ladder. Under Amara's guidance, they began securing safety harnesses around the lion's body. Each strap was placed with care, tight enough to hold during the lift, but loose enough to not restrict breathing. "Is the chest free? Check the airways," Amara instructed methodically. "Keep the head above the body at all times." Once all the straps were secure, the rescuers climbed back aboard, leaving only 2 supporting ropes to hold the lion for the next phase. "Secure it." Amara quickly fastened the lion's head with a special collar that prevented the animal from reaching the crew, while not restricting its breathing. "Now, unstrap the restraints, one by one, starting from the hind legs." Noticing the lion beginning to stir from light sedation, Amara promptly administered another dose. "Everyone, step back 3 meters," she ordered. "I need an IV drip, oxygen mask, and thermal blanket." The veterinarian moved with incredible speed and precision. Her hands flew over the lion's body, inserting a drip with saline and electrolytes, checking pupils, measuring body temperature, and palpating the abdomen for internal injuries. "Temperature is critically low, 35.2 degrees Celsius, she reported. "Irregular heartbeat, shallow breathing, signs of severe dehydration." "We have to stabilize him, or we'll lose him." The entire Savannah crew sprang into action to save their extraordinary passenger. One person held heating pads near the lion's paws. Another monitored the IV. Others watched the vitals. Amara pulled several vials from her bag. "Cardiac stimulants, broad-spectrum antibiotics, anti-shock meds," she said, injecting them rapidly. "Hopefully, this will keep him going until we reach the shore." After 30 minutes of intensive therapy, the lion showed the first signs of improvement. His breathing deepened and steadied. His heartbeat became more regular, though full recovery was still a long way off. "Captain, how long until we reach land?" Amara asked without looking up from the heart rate monitor. "At full speed, 4 hours," Mbeki replied, "but the sea's rough. Delays are possible." "We have to make it in time," Amara bit her lip. In this condition, every hour counts. The Savannah sliced through the waves at full throttle, heading for the Tanzanian coast. On deck, Amara and her assistants fought for the lion's life. Every 15 minutes, the veterinarian checked his condition, adjusted medication dosages, changed IV bags. At one point, the lion suddenly twitched and let out a faint growl. His eyes opened wide, pupils dilated in fear and confusion. "Easy, easy," Amara spoke calmly, evenly, locking eyes with the predator. "You're safe. We're helping you. It's going to be okay." The lion looked at her for several long seconds, then his eyelids drooped again, not from exhaustion now, but slipping into natural sleep needed for recovery. "He's fighting," Amara said with reverence in her voice. After everything he's been through, he's still fighting. What a spirit. An hour before arriving in Dar es Salaam, Captain Mbeki contacted coastal authorities, requesting transport to a veterinary center. He also alerted the Anti-Poaching and Wildlife Trafficking Department, suggesting an immediate investigation. "We'll need air evacuation," Amara said when he returned. "Land transport will take too long and could be fatal for him. He won't survive that kind of strain." The captain nodded and returned to the bridge. Minutes later, he came back with good news. "A helicopter will be ready on our arrival. Air corridor has been cleared." By the time the Samana docked, a specialized transport vehicle for large animals was already waiting, along with officers from the anti-smuggling unit. Transferring the lion from the ship to a stretcher, then to the helicopter, was done with extreme care. Amara never left her patient's side, constantly monitoring his condition. "Lift on my count. 3, she instructed, as 6 handlers prepared to move the lion from deck to pier. "Keep his head elevated. Watch the IV. No sudden movements." At last, the lion was safely secured inside the helicopter. Amara and 2 of her assistants boarded with him, continuing treatment mid-flight. The aircraft rose into the air, heading straight for the veterinary center, where a team of 6 specialists awaited. They immediately connected the lion to advanced medical equipment, performed X-rays, internal ultrasounds, and extensive blood work. The next 3 days were critical. The lion teetered between life and death. Twice, his heart stopped, and the team had to use a defibrillator. His lungs, partially filled with seawater, required constant drainage. His kidneys worked overtime to filter out toxins. Amara and her colleagues took shifts, never leaving the lion's side. They administered antibiotics to prevent pneumonia, fed him through a tube, and closely monitored hydration. On the 4th day, the lion showed steady improvement. He lifted his head on his own and even tried to stand, though his limbs still trembled with weakness. By the end of the week, he was eating without the tube, starting with liquid nutrient blends, then finally cut meat. "It's a miracle," Amara told her team. "By all medical standards, he should have died at sea. But something made him fight, something powerful inside him." Meanwhile, Coastal Guard headquarters launched an investigation. Marine traffic logs from the past 48 hours were reviewed. Crews of nearby fishing vessels were questioned. Particular attention was paid to ships that changed course or speed around the time the lion was found. By morning, a lead emerged. A cargo vessel named Black Rhino, sailing under the flag of a small island nation, had been near the area about 10 hours before the incident. After entering Tanzanian waters, it suddenly changed course and accelerated, heading toward international waters. Further checks revealed that Black Rhino had already attracted Interpol's interest and was on a watch list. Colonel Dauda Ahmed, head of the operation, ordered a vessel inspection. A special boarding team was assembled. The operation to intercept Black Rhino began at dawn. A helicopter located the ship about 300 kilometers off the Tanzanian coast, heading for international waters. High-speed Coast Guard boats Cheetah and Hawk launched at full speed, carrying 10 fully equipped commandos each. The operatives quickly neutralized the guards on the upper deck and advanced toward the captain's bridge. The ship's captain, Somali national Farid Adem, and the first officer surrendered without resistance. However, in the lower hold, the guards opened fire on the assault team. Using smoke grenades and flashbangs, the special forces methodically cleared the lower compartments. 15 minutes after the operation began, all resistance had been suppressed. When Major Omari personally led a team to inspect the cargo holds, the scene that unfolded shocked even the battle-hardened soldiers. In 3 massive compartments, hundreds of African wildlife animals were being kept in horrific conditions. In the first hold, 4 young elephants were found chained to metal rings in the floor. Their legs were rubbed raw and bleeding, and their trunks were tied with rope. Nearby, 6 white rhinos were crammed into small cages so tightly they couldn't even turn around. Some had their horns crudely sawn off. At the far end of the hold were cages containing around 20 lions and lionesses of various ages. Many lay motionless, their shallow breathing the only sign they were still alive. The second hold was filled with hoofed animals. Dozens of zebras, various antelope species including rare okapis and bongos, and 3 giraffes with unnaturally bent necks due to the low ceilings. The air was heavy with the stench of uncleaned excrement, and many animals stood ankle-deep in their own filth. The water dispensers were empty, and only moldy remnants of food remained in the troughs. The third hold housed cages with birds and small animals, hundreds of grey parrots and turacos, many of which had plucked out their own feathers from stress. Dozens of monkeys of various species huddled in corners, crocodiles and giant tortoises packed in tight crates without water. "We need help. A lot of help." Major Omari urgently requested reinforcements via a secure communications channel. "Hundreds of animals are in critical condition. We need veterinarians, equipment, and transport for evacuation." Within 3 hours, 2 additional Coast Guard vessels and the cargo ship Arcadia, urgently refitted for animal transport, arrived at the Black Rhino. On board were 28 veterinarians from the Tanzanian National Parks Authority and international organizations, along with technical staff and necessary equipment. An unprecedented animal rescue operation began. The veterinarians split into teams, each responsible for a specific group of animals. First, they provided water and examined the most severely weakened creatures. The elephants were in especially dire condition, severely dehydrated, with infected wounds on their worn-down legs. Veterinarians set up intravenous saline drips directly in the hold, not risking moving the animals. One of the elephants, the youngest, couldn't stand and lay on its side, barely breathing. A special support structure was built to prevent internal damage from the pressure of its own weight. The lions and other big cats showed signs of severe emaciation and dehydration. Many received intravenous nutrient solutions, while others were fed finely chopped meat mixed with medications. Veterinarians treated numerous wounds caused by cramped cages and administered antibiotics and anti-inflammatory injections. Giraffes posed a particular challenge. Days of unnatural neck positions had caused dangerous circulatory issues. Vets use special braces and stretchers to gradually return their necks to a natural position without causing further injury. Rescuing the birds required extra caution. Many were in extreme stress. Each cage was covered with dark cloth to simulate night and calm the birds. Then, one by one, specialists removed them, conducted examinations, provided hydration, and gave necessary treatment. The work continued around the clock. By dawn the next day, the first group of animals was ready for evacuation, starting with the most weakened and the young. Each species had a tailored transportation protocol, accounting for its physiology and behavior. Transporting large animals was particularly complex. For elephants and giraffes, special hoists and support slings were used to avoid injury. Each transfer could take up to an hour and involved as many as 15 people. By the end of the second day, about 1/3 of the animals had been moved to the Arcadia and the escorting vessels. For certain species in critical condition, air evacuation was organized. Helicopters with suspended platforms delivered them directly to rehabilitation centers. The entire rescue operation lasted 5 days. Veterinarians and technicians worked to the limit of their endurance, taking turns to sleep no more than 3 or 4 hours a day. Despite the team's efforts, not all the animals could be saved. Some were too far gone from the hellish conditions and did not survive the added stress of transportation. Nevertheless, more than 90% of the animals from the Black Rhino were successfully evacuated and delivered to rehabilitation centers. In total, the rescue saved 3 of the 4 elephants, all 6 rhinos, 18 of 20 lions, all 3 giraffes, about 50 zebras, over 100 antelopes of various species, dozens of monkeys, hundreds of birds, as well as crocodiles, tortoises, and other reptiles. Alongside the rescue, an investigation was launched aboard the Black Rhino. In the captain's cabin, documents were found that revealed the full scope of the smuggling operation. The Black Rhino was just one of 5 ships operated by the international syndicate Red Claw, which trafficked animals from Africa to the Middle East and Southeast Asia. Captain Farid Adam, realizing the severity of the consequences, agreed to cooperate with investigators. During questioning, he revealed the fate of the lion rescued by fishermen. That lion was one of 3 large males captured in the Serengeti for a private zoo owned by a Saudi sheikh, Adam confessed. During a storm, its cage tipped over and the lock broke. The lion escaped onto the deck. He was weak but still dangerous. One crew member was injured. I gave the order to get rid of it. They forced it to the edge and pushed it overboard with a crane. When asked why they didn't try to recapture the valuable animal, the captain replied, "Animals rescued from the Black Rhino were given new homes in the national parks and reserves of East Africa after rehabilitation. For many of them, a special rehabilitation center was created, where they recovered from stress and trauma. The most seriously injured animals required months of treatment before they could return to the wild. The rescued lions, in particular, underwent careful preparation for their release. They were gradually shifted from artificial feeding to natural diets and were helped to regain their hunting instincts. For the youngest ones, who had long lost their freedom and had almost no survival skills, a special rehabilitation program was designed. A lion rescued by fishermen was given the name Bahari, which means ocean in Swahili. After a full recovery at the veterinary center, under the personal care of Amara Ngozi, he was transferred to Serengeti National Park. There, a spacious adaptation enclosure of several hectares was built for him, where he spent a month regaining strength and acclimating to the wild. When it was time to release Bahari, the ceremony was attended by the fishermen from Hope who had saved him at sea, and members of the Savannah team who had fought for his life. The gate opened. The majestic lion paused for a moment at the threshold, then stepped into a new life. He stopped, looked back, as if saying goodbye to the people who saved him, and disappeared into the tall savanna grass. A GPS transmitter on a special collar allowed scientists to track Bahari's movements. To their surprise, the lion not only survived in the wild, he thrived. Within 3 months, he established dominance over a territory, won several fights against rival males, and formed a pride of 6 lionesses. Within a year, he had fathered 12 cubs from 3 different females. What amazed scientists most was Bahari's unusual relationship with water. Unlike most lions who avoid it, he often swam across rivers and even hunted in marshy areas, using water as part of his strategy. Experts believe that the predator's extraordinary survival experience in the ocean forever changed his attitude toward water. At the high-security Mwene prison, Black Rhino Captain Farid Adem is still serving his 15-year sentence. In a prison newspaper interview a year after his arrest, he confessed, "That lion still haunts me in my nightmares. Every night I see those eyes, full of strength and will. We were sure he would drown within a minute, and didn't even bother to shoot. No one imagined that the animal would not only survive the open sea, but also lead to our exposure. If not for his unbelievable resilience, we would have gone on for years." The rescue operation drew global attention to the issue of illegal wildlife trade. In Tanzania, a special fund was established to fight poaching and illegal transport of animals. International cooperation in this field has significantly intensified. Veterinarians involved in the operation developed special protocols for working with animals traumatized by illegal transportation. Their methods were adopted by veterinary services in many countries and have since saved thousands of animals. One major result was the creation of an international system for monitoring marine cargo using satellite surveillance and artificial intelligence to detect suspicious vessels. This system helped prevent dozens of smuggling attempts. In 2023, at the International Wildlife Protection Conference in Nairobi, Tanzania's Minister of Environment gave a now famous speech. If that lion hadn't had such an incredible will to live, none of this would have happened. We wouldn't have uncovered a massive smuggling ring or saved hundreds of animals. Thanks to the resilience and courage of one lion, we destroyed a criminal empire and spared thousands of animals from suffering and death. Sometimes, the greatest changes start with a single brave heart. Unaware of his role in these events, Bahari continued living in the Serengeti, raising a new generation of lions. His descendants, easily recognizable by their distinct dark manes inherited from him, spread throughout the eastern part of the reserve. According to some rangers, like their father, they showed an unusual affinity for water, a trait that gave them a crucial advantage during dry seasons. Every year, on the anniversary of Bahari's rescue, Serengeti staff held a special ceremony for children from nearby villages. They shared the story of the lion's courage and human compassion, how together they overcame cruelty and evil. The tale reminds us all of the importance of cherishing and protecting wildlife from those who seek to harm it for profit.